on the different remix, you got Raz Kaz and you got King Crooked, aka Crooked I, on there. Um, the Big Daddy Kane line from Ain't No Half-Steppin' is on there, but Raz, my favorite line from Raz, and I wanted you to talk about this on a rap lyrical slash societal industry perspective, was rappers used to be rebels, now they're followers, which I thought was a very poignant, as Raz always does. Shout out to Raz. But when you heard that and it's going to be on your song, like what did that mean to you as a fan, as a writer yourself?
Well, you kind of answered it, brother. As a fan, as a writer, it was a blessing, man. I went through my whole career kind of doing what I do on my own. You know what I'm saying? As far as my music, I've never really been heavy on features, but I was also just a fan. So to have Ras on the record was a blessing. To have Crooked on the record was a blessing because I started off as a battle rapper, so I've always been a lyrical cat. Just G Funk didn't need all that. You see what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna get down with some of the top MCs, lyrical MCs from the West Coast, I gotta come to the table. I gotta be able to sit at the table. So that's why I invited those brothers, and the respect and the love was mutual, and they came and got down with me.
Yes, they did get down. And Crooked Eye on the different remix in particular, man, at the beginning of his verse, he's stacking all these rhymes phenomenally, as he does often. He's obviously a phenomenal artist as well. Shout out Crooked Eye. But my favorite line he says is, I'm Eazy-E if he swallowed a glossary. So I want you to break down from you what that meant to you and what Crooked Eye is saying on that one.
Man, you just gave me goosebumps, brother. Uh, man, Crook. I tell a story behind closed doors, but since you my bro, I'm gonna speak on it, man. One thing I love about Crook, man, Crook his pen game, he's very vindictive. He's very vindictive, man. He has a chip on his shoulder because he really feels like he's one of the top MCs in the game ever. And so he approach when it's time for him to really get out, his pen gets real vindictive, right? And I knew coming into this with, the likes of Raz being on the record and, you know, me doing what I did on the record, I knew he was going to step up and do what Crook does. You feel me? And it was a beautiful thing. And as a fan, before he even started writing the verse, I told him, I said, uh 66 Moonstar just came out. So when we was talking about the record, I was like, nah, bro, you gotta give me that. You gotta go all in. You gotta go all in. And his last thing he said to me was like, say less. 2 or 3 days later, he hit me with the verse. I was like, that's what I'm talking about, Brody.
Yeah, it's incredible. And on the I'm Different remix at the end, you talk about the value of being different and all those things. So why do you think it's evolved to where people seemingly are so big to want to fit in as opposed to be distinctive and be different?
Well, the thing is, man, they just don't have guidance, brother. Like a lot of these young artists don't have guidance. Like they don't look at the OGs. It's like life. You know what I'm saying? Kids don't listen to their parents. You know what I'm saying? It's like life. They feel like, well, we're making all this money, we're this popular, so why in the hell should we listen to you? You're old and you're washed up and you're not, and they're not looking at the fact like, okay, well, we still paved the way for you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like we put the blood, sweat, and tears in, so y'all could just hop on a video, do something wild and zany, and say a couple little lines that rhyme and get successful. Like you're not looking at, that's the foundation we built, me and my peers built, you know what I'm saying? And the cats before me. So they don't have guidance. And they also just say, okay, well, since this guy sounds like this, let me go on and sound like that guy because that guy is popular. And I know people like that, so let me sound like that. And record labels and record companies do the same thing. They go, okay, well, we know this is a hit. We're in this to make money. So we know this is a hit. Let's remake this. Let's redo this because we know this wins. And it's just so unfair to the culture, man.
No, I agree. And I think the thing about the '80s in particular with rap and the early '90s is with the record companies, but also with the fans too. We didn't know what was going to work, what was going to be successful, even what we would like. And that's why I think there was such room to be distinctive, to have, be a De La Soul or to be an N.W.A or a Kwame or a Big Daddy Kane. I mean, it was just all over the place because there was room for a Too Short because we'd never heard anything like that before. And that, I think, enabled people to create their own lanes, be distinctive, and be very popular. And same thing, we never heard like Salt-N-Pepa before, and they came out and were as big or bigger than the any male groups at the time, really. So
Exactly.
it's all very different. And even, earlier we had talked about the Fat Boys and Curtis Blow. I mean, the Fat Boys and Houdini and Run-DMC, I guess the three superstar groups that really started the commercial explosion of rap on a commercial side, a mainstream side of things. Those three groups are very, very different, and that I think led to the expansion and the development of rap that everybody was like, oh, we can do what we do, which I think is great. Tied into
Exactly.
Pacific, yeah, and that ties into Pacific Standard Time because one of the things that I've enjoyed, and you did this on Baking Soda with Daddy Daughter Day, one of my favorite songs is the Father's Day song you have on Pacific Standard Time. Um, one, because you're shouting out being a father, as am I, but beyond that, the very personal, detailed story. So, generally speaking, before I get into my specific questions, what made you want to get that deep and dive into such personal stuff on Father's Day from Pacific Standard Time?
Well, I once again I kind of looked back at the album and was looking for, looking at what I had as far as subject matter went, and I knew there was something missing, like a story, but I didn't want to just tell like a story like Latasha. I wanted to really kind of dive deep, and I kind of wanted to leave something for my kids. You know what I'm saying? Once I'm long gone, and if they have any questions about how Pops felt, they can listen to that record.
Hmm. Okay. And on there, on Father's Day, you do talk about a situation that happens sadly with a lot of people, not just for the dad, but for the child as well, where you find out a child later isn't actually your biological child.
Mhm.
So when you talk about that on Father's Day, you know, I know a few men that have experienced that as well, and at that point, they are the father, because they've been treating the child as their own. So for
Mhm.
you personally, what was the revelation? How did the revelation come to be? And then how did that affect you immediately in that aftermath?
Well, the thing about that particular situation was, I can honestly say, she wasn't crafty with it, she wasn't shady with it. She was honest, she was honest. She was honest after the fact though. After, you know, she realized she tried to right her wrongs, and she let me know. And I respected that from her. So it was no harm,
But
no
but
foul after that.
was that like 6 months later? Was that during the pregnancy? Was that a
Right.
year?
Yeah, it was about no, it was a couple years later. Maybe she was about about three or four.
Okay.
About three or four, after that. And then, but in that same line, we also got a son together. And then in that line, I say, I'm a little leery. What if she did this the same way? You feel me? Um, so yeah, brother, it's a deep record.
Yeah, it's very powerful and it's very different from a lot of Pacific Standard Time. So when you were writing a song like Father's Day, is it you get into a different, do you get into a different space creatively than say a Back to the Basics, which is more just, hip hop style, braggadocio, cleverness, or is writing always the same for you?
It varies. It differs. It's different according to the beat. Like one thing we did about with this album in Slack is we didn't have a time frame for it. We just worked. Like with baking soda, I had a time frame, at least in my mind. I had a clock. Same thing with West Coast Boom Slap. I had kind of had a clock. With this one, we just worked. You know what I'm saying? Because uh the time between West Coast Boom Slap and Pacific Standard Time is only like 5, 6 months. So we was just working. We was working, and I would look up and listen to the beat. If I started the beat or Slag started the beat, I would listen. I would say, okay, this goes with this. So that was just the whole creative process for this album, which worked out great.
Yeah. And Father's Day also, I think, is important because, as we've also seen in not only popular culture but in our own lives, a lot of fathers don't either acknowledge their children or aren't there for their children or ignore them or what have you, and you're going out of your way to tell them how you love them and to shout them out and all this different stuff. And I think now that in our current society, we have such a, I'd say we're getting to such a place of instant gratification. So things are much more surface level than I'd say a deep level a lot of the time.
Mhm.
So musically, how did you know that you wanted to convey it to where they could listen to Father's Day 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and hear that and know, regardless of what's happening in your guys' relationship, that's a timeless thing for them.
Yeah, well, see, here's the thing: when you're not in a relationship with your baby mother, uh, they can write the narrative. You feel me? Um, the child only knows what it's hearing from the mom a lot of times, especially if the father is just not present enough. So yeah, you got that story from your mom, and you got that, but let me tell you my side. You know what I'm saying? Let me explain my side. So when you get old enough to really sit back and look and learn and go, okay, and compare, hopefully it all makes sense to you.
Yeah. I think Father's Day, like I said, is one of my favorite songs on Pacific Standard Time. So, I think it's very powerful. People should check it out if they haven't already. The link for Pacific Standard Time is down below, so definitely check it out and listen to it. I think it's an amazing song.
Right.
Moving on to other songs on Pacific Standard Time with Hustle Man. The thing I thought was interesting about that is talking about how a hustler doesn't waste time. So, first of all, where is that? What is that soundbite from, and who and what is that?
It was actually a motivational speech. Um, just about hustling. It was just a great motivational speech, and we loved it, man. We was like, we gotta go, with this one. And it's crazy because the way I wrote it, it's not even about what people may think it's about. It's actually about me hustling my music. Um, so we just wanted to approach it that way. We feel we do something dope. I found a gospel record that me and Slag chopped up. So we wanted to really make it heartfelt, man. So yeah, it came off kind of dope.
Yeah,
Shout out to Dow
that's
Poeta too. Dow Poeta did his thing on that record.
for sure. And you got the sample of KRS One Boogie Down Productions on there, and also with that, I think it also stands for like a focus, which I think, as you were alluding to a little bit earlier, with putting out all this music with Bacon Soda Rewind, West Coast Boom Slap, and Pacific Standard Time in such a short amount of time. What has changed for you personally to where in the last year and a half ish you've put out so much material in such a short amount of time?
Just working, man. I finally got back to doing something I love. I took a break, man. I actually retired from music. I retired about 5 years, 6 years. I was done. I was done. I was kind of frustrated with how the music was going. My health, my ears was going out on me. So it was a few things, man. I was just like, you know. And I got to shout out two cats. I got to shout out JD for coming home and me wanting to work around what he had going on. But then my number one reason for coming back was Dal Poeta. Shout out to Dal Poeta because Dal Poeta, you know, he just came one day, was like, man, I want to do a West Coast record, but I don't know what I'm doing as far as, I want that real feel. So he talked me into writing. So he got me back started. And then once he got me back started, uh West Coast Stone came in the picture, and then Stone was like, "Man, let's do an album." Because at that point I just did a couple features and a couple songs, and Stone was like, "Man, let's knock out an album." And I was like, "Man, if I knock out an album, it got to be on some other shit. It got to be. I don't want to do what I've been doing." So he was like, "Okay, well, what you want to do?" I said, "I want to get back to hip hop." So I think that's been the real big reason why I've been like going hard because I'm back doing something I really love, man. The creativity of hip hop and boom bap and boom slap. I'm just having a ball with it right now, bro.